But I looked up the Aeronauts yesterday, and Io Adebri had written a review.
No.
Yeah, she'd written, her review was, the guy from Yesterday is in this movie. Just remembered that.
It's just nice to know that she knows I exist.
Hello and welcome to Go to Bat, a series where we shine a light on the hidden gems that deserve more love. I'm joined today by Himesh Patel.
Done rehearsal, everyone on their A game. Remember, we are top draw professionals, thank you. Camera time!
The franchise,
Yeah.
which is from Armando Iannucci, directed by Sam Mendes, starring an array of brilliant people. And there's you in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was a real thrill and a great cast, and we all bonded really well and had a great time making it.
Can you just kind of go through the plot of the franchise for those watching?
So it's set behind the scenes of a fictional superhero movie, and it's about the crew of this movie trying to keep it running, basically, as the studio itself tries to dismantle this movie.
I'd like to fire the sound man.
Okay, you can't do that.
He's wearing the indoor scarf. I thought only directors wear the indoor scarf. Is he mocking me?
It's kind of a tribute to the crews who make everything that we watch, really. Especially superhero movies, of course, that's the world that we're sort of playing in, but anything that I've ever made, anything that anyone's ever watched has a crew behind it.
Would now be a good time to talk about career progressions?
It's nice to be making something that's sort of spotlighting them.
Sure, and you played Daniel, who's the first AD. You're kind of caught in the eye of the storm of this situation. And is it fair to say Daniel is kind of like the straight guy in this, next to everyone's quirkier characters?
I think so, but he also is fallible in a lot of ways, as people will see as the series goes on. But yeah, he's sort of in the middle of the storm, as you say. First ADs generally tend to be. You know, they're the ones who have to call the shots and have to make sure everyone's doing what they need to be doing at the given time and at the given budget. There's a lot on their plate. So
you could say they are the unsung hero of film sets, really.
Completely, but I think so many people on film sets are unsung heroes, you know, because they just don't really get seen.
So this is series, I've read a few places that it's kind of based on fact, that everything that kind of the crazy stuff people are watching kind of happened at one time or another.
Yeah, and I'm still finding out bits that were actually true.
Really?
You know, there's a whole bit of episode 1 involving some eyes getting burned that I found out recently is based on fact.
Absolutely
So I think there's probably even crazier stuff that almost you couldn't write it, so they didn't write it.
It's funny, isn't it? Like I think that adds, like, you know, already the show has allure because of the people attached. Knowing ahead of time when they're watching it that these things went down just adds a whole nother level of anticipation. Yeah. When you're on set and you're kind of, because the show is very fast paced and there's such a great rhythm to it, and that's part of the DNA of the show. And you're kind of there the whole time, and you've got, you know, Richard E. Grant chiming in, doing crazy things. You've got Lolly Adefope in your ear, who's just one of the best.
She's great.
Do you ever worry about corpsing and like ruining the take?
I've done it plenty of times.
Have you? Yeah.
There's a scene at the end of episode 1 with me and Lolly, and I corpsed my way through it, basically. Really? And I made the cardinal sin, which is, obviously it's bad enough laughing when the camera's on you, because, you know, but you're only ruining your own take. Yeah. Then it turned around on Lolly, and I still couldn't stop laughing. Oh, no. And I felt really bad. And I still do to this day. Thankfully, she's still talking to me.
Yeah, was she all right with it?
She's great. I mean, Lolly's just the best, and she's so good in this show. But I felt very bad about that. It's very difficult. Yeah, you're right. There's so many wonderful performances, hilarious writing, and then the way that it's brought to life by these great actors. It's very, you know, it's always a surprise. And then as the series went on and we got to know each other a bit more, we felt that we could be more playful with each other. So people would start throwing stuff in that might throw me off. Yeah. But you know, I need to become more resilient to it, because actually some of it is gold dust, you know, and if you laugh over it, then it's gone.
Armando Iannucci and the rest of the producers encouraged the improvisation?
Yeah, well, Armando was a producer on this, so he wasn't as hands-on as he has been on other stuff like Avenue 5. When I worked on Avenue 5, he was the showrunner on that, whereas on this we've got John Brown as our showrunner, who worked with Armando for years. I worked with John on Avenue 5. John kind of did encourage it. I mean, we certainly weren't sort of told not to do it, but the writing is so meticulous, as you say. The pace really does come from the writing, and they would often have sort of lists of alternative lines. They would always have these sort of alternative punch lines or just alternative lines that they would throw at us, you know, if they wanted to try something different. But then we'd always have the freedom to, do some later takes, just sort of playing around a little bit. Yeah.
There's one moment that made me laugh because they mentioned Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
You've been in a Christopher Nolan film. Are you just there kind of like, it's a bit meta?
Yeah, and it gets even more meta later on in
Really?
the series. Yeah, but it is funny. Yeah, because there's a few odd moments there where we're sort of being a little bit meta. There's a point at which Lolly mentions Saltburn, which she's in.
She's in,
and
course.
Richard's in, of course, as well. And Daniel, in the first episode, Daniel Bruhl, who plays Eric. Daniel Bruhl's obviously worked a lot with Ron Howard, and basically Ron Howard's the punchline to a joke in episode 1. And I believe that he kind of had to. We shot episode 1, and then we had to wait a little while through the strike and everything to shoot the rest of the series. Sometime after the strike, he went off to shoot this movie with Ron Howard, and he kind of had to tell Ron, like, by the way, sorry, my character makes a joke about you in episode 1.
Have you ever been on a set like as chaotic as the franchise?
There's an element of chaos to any set, really, because inherently there's just a lot going on. There's the various departments doing various things, all leading to the same, obviously, culmination, which is the scene that you're working on that day, or the set that you're building for the next day, or whatever's happening. There's a various things, various spinning plates, basically, and it's kind of the first AD's job to make sure that those plates keep spinning. But I've thankfully never been on a set that's really falling apart in the way that the set is falling apart on the set of Tecto, which is the movie that we're making in this show.
Holy fucking shit, the studio's on fire! Okay, it's just some houses. We're back, everyone.
But again, I've heard that it's the way some films can go.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll find myself on the set.
At some point or another.
Yeah.
Well, you do have, as you say, you're safe from having been in a disaster to
So
date,
far.
which is great, and long may that continue. But here for this series, we'd like to shine a light on the projects that you think maybe deserved a bit more love, and for what that didn't get it for whatever reason. And you have picked one. Can you please tell us what you picked?
I picked a movie I did called The Aeronauts, which I'm very proud of.
You'll get your chance. They'll realise your worth.
I think they know my worth quite well enough.
It was only the second movie that I'd done, actually. I did Yesterday, and then not long after I finished that, I went on to The Aeronauts and just had the best time.
Did you? Yeah.
Tom Harper, who directed it, is a friend of mine now, and I just think he did an amazing job of this. Jack Thorne wrote the script. But I'm really proud of the movie, and I think it maybe didn't kind of get the love and attention that I think it deserved. I think it was also one of those movies that maybe didn't have as long in the cinemas as it maybe could have done, and it's such a cinematic sort of spectacle of a movie. And luckily I did see it in the cinema, obviously, because I went to a couple of screenings and got to see it at the IMAX here in London, and I just thought, I mean, that's where it belonged. It's been shot for that, and it's a really amazing story, and all the more amazing that it's a true story, basically, about the invention of meteorology and kind of the reason that we know anything about what's going to happen tomorrow. The thing that we take for granted, but who knew that beginnings of it was this sort of epic journey that these people went on. So
it's funny. It's like, because I've only watched it this weekend in preparation, admittedly, and I feel like if I saw that in IMAX, there are scenes where I would, my tummy would have been going funny because he's so high down my vertigo.
It did.
It would have been like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
So impressively done.
Really amazingly done. The technicians involved. We talk about crews. Something like this, I mean, they really have to be at the top of their game to pull off stunts like that.
Absolutely.
And the visual effects as well in post-production. So it really is an example for me of sort of big-scale filmmaking done really well.
Yeah.
And done right. I mean, I was on set for some of it, and it all was working pretty well.
Yeah.
I didn't see too much stress around,
more
than the sort of the amount that's just a given, really, when you're trying to make anything of that scale. But everything down to the costume, the detail on set, all of it was I'm really proud of it. And
I guess that leads to my next question, which is, so there's a deluge of content put on, and I don't like using the word content, but it does become that, doesn't it? When every month there is just, an amazing amount of new films and TV shows to tear through, and you've got to pick, because time is short. And you've got to try and position this thing as the one to watch. And The Aeronauts was a massive success for Amazon. I look back and think in 2020, whoever was in charge then, said a few months after it was released that it was the most successful film on Amazon at that time.
Good.
So obviously it did have an audience at home, but then again, they're not going to release the numbers like they've released box office figures, so you can't really track the success of something.
I really wanted it to be sort of a cinematic event because that's kind of what I think it deserved to be. But I think, I do remember people watching it and being very sort of complimentary about it.
I guess so you were on yesterday before the Aeronauts. Obviously, two very different films.
Yeah.
One, you are literally the lead and you're in every scene, firstly. Singing the Beatles.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine how daunting that must have been.
Who?
The Beatles.
The what?
The pop group Beatles. Nick, help me out here.
There's this problem with musicians. They presume everyone else has this encyclopedic knowledge of obscure pop and make you feel stupid when you haven't heard of bands, like Neutral Milk Hotel or the Monophonics, or in this case, the Beatles.
It was daunting and also obviously really enjoyable.
Yeah.
What I found really funny about it was that I thought I'd be really sick of it by 2 weeks in, because I had a really decent, about 2-3 month period of rehearsing, of basically where they just set up this room at the production office and I would just play the songs and learn the songs every day. And I just thought, I'm going to be sick of these songs come the end of next week. But at the end of production, I was still not tired of it, which is something about the magic of those songs, I think. But I also was really well supported.
Yeah.
And so it didn't feel as daunting as it could have done.
Was there any songs in that film that you didn't get to sing that you wanted to?
Oh, there's so many Beatles songs, aren't there? I love Blackbird.
Yeah.
And I've learned that on the guitar for myself.
Just talking of other directors you work with, I mentioned before, Christopher Nolan, obviously. You aren't in Tenet for a long time, but your scenes are great.
Yeah.
You've got that power about you. You linger in the memory after the film is done. Would you work with him again? I'm assuming it's a yes.
Of course.
He's got a film coming out in a few years, hasn't he?
Yeah, I just heard news of that the other day. Yeah, in a heartbeat. He's one of those, jump how high, sort of directors. So, and everything he touches is really special. I think he's not made a bad movie in my book.
Do you have top three?
It's tough. It's really tough.
You don't have to mention Tenet, which, by the way,
I can't pick that.
His most underrated it's become.
I think it was a lockdown thing, wasn't it? Yeah. And I really admire that he wanted it to come out during lockdown and really pushed for that. And I think people did when they felt safe, they did. And,
absolutely.
And he doesn't spoon feed the audience, and I've always loved that about his movies, and I love that about Tenet. He doesn't need to do this sort of big exposition thing, and even when he does, if you sort of watch it again and you start to see, it's very well done. It's always very well done.
One, if you had to throw one on tonight, you're going home, what are you going to put on?
I'll go with Interstellar. I love that movie, and the thing is, I haven't watched it since having kids of my own. I'm kind of holding off because I just know it's going to destroy me, I think.
I'm sure that scene will
especially
hit
that scene, the famous scene with McConaughey in tears. Yeah, I think.
I met another girl, Dad. I really think this is the one.
But I just think there's something amazing about how he made something so epic and yet so intimate.
Do you use Letterbox? Are you aware of Letterbox? What the reason I bring it up is I use it quite religiously. It's such a great way. I watch so much. It's a great way.
Is it just a way of listing what you've seen?
Exactly.
Right.
Like diarising it.
Right.
And you just and you can do your reviews and stuff, and you rate it out of 5 if you want. But it's so great. I get to watch so much. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
It's a great way of remembering what I've seen.
Yeah.
But I looked up the Aeronauts yesterday, and Io Adebri had written a review.
No.
Yeah. She'd written her review was.
Will I still love her?
You will. The guy from Yesterday is in this movie. Just remembered that.
It's just nice to know that she knows I exist.
She knows you exist, man. She knows you exist. I'm sure she now knows your name, because that was a few years ago now. Okay. So I'm pretty certain she knows your name. And talking of Avenue 5, just circling back, we had the lovely Layla Farzad in for this series, and she picked Avenue 5 as her go-to-back, because she thinks it just was...
let's throw that in as well. Yeah, audience. I loved it. I had a great time.
What year did you kind of get the role in Yesterday? Remind me of that. That was
beginning of 2018.
2018.
That we shot that, yeah.
So, in the last 6 years, you've built up an impressive body of work. And obviously, when did you leave EastEnders?
I left EastEnders...
so quickly after leaving EastEnders?
I know, I feel very lucky that there's things lined up that way, you know. I mean, I use the word lucky a lot, but I mean that in the sense of any actor's journey is a lot of hard work and a lot of commitment and learning along the way, but it's also just luck that things line up at the right time. You know, I was doing a play in New York at the end of 2017 when the self-tape for Yesterday came in. Oh, wow. So I did the self-tape while I was still in New York doing this play, and then they were taking meetings towards the end of the year, and actually the play finished sort of mid-December, so then I flew home to do this meeting with Danny and Richie Curtis. But I just keep thinking that, well, if the play had been running longer, they probably would have gone, he's not available to do the, you know. It's a matter of weeks sometimes that these things can, you know, so.
Of course, and it's, I guess, that it's the what ifs and the crossroads thing that kind of makes a career and the near misses and whatnot. Have you ever had a moment where a project has come along and you've just not been able to do it, and you've really wanted to and it's not worked out?
I suppose the thing that happens with actors is you have availability checks. So casting directors will get in touch with your agent and go, you know, we think he might be right to audition for or might be right for this role in this thing. Is he available? And sometimes they'll be like, no, he's not. And then I'll never hear about it. Because they're like, you don't want to know what you could have.
They're protecting you from the anguish of a missed
no
opportunity.
Yeah. They could have been, Spielberg could have come a knocking. I have no idea.
So what's next for you, Himesh? What have we got coming up?
I've got a movie called The Assessment with Elizabeth Olsen and Alicia Vikander, which premiered at Toronto Film Festival. It's also playing right now at London Film Festival, and hopefully it'll be coming out soon. So I'm excited to hear about when that will be released to the world.
Well, we're going to look out for The Assessment. We're going to rewatch The Aeronauts, so we'll watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
And we're going to tear through the franchise when that starts. I'm assuming it's on now on Sky. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You.
It's been really great having you here.